I always got made fun of by my sisters for being a tightwad. But you know what? I pinch my pennies and that helps me get ahead financially. So I want to encourage you to do some homework if you are looking to get divorced. Divorce is such an expensive, horrible process. Expensive it can be. Um, so it's definitely worth doing your homework to see like what things you can avoid, what common pitfalls in order to save you some money. So the question today we're asking is, what is the cheapest kind of divorce? And that raises the question, what do you mean kind of divorce? Are there different kinds of divorce? And the answer is yes, there's actually 6 different ways that you can get divorced. And each of the 6 ways is different is the right kind of divorce for a different type of person. So let's go through the different ways and then we'll talk about which ways would be the cheapest way. So the first kind of divorce is the summary divorce. And that's for people who are going to file together. So there's only one filing fee, and so they have to mutually agree to get divorced. And it's really simple paperwork. You usually don't need an attorney, and there's not a lot of assets or debts to divide up, and therefore that's why it's so simple, and you probably don't need an attorney for that. And so this would be good for somebody who maybe just got married out of high school and got divorced like a year later, something like that, where there's not a whole lot of time together to have created this like mess of things that you need to unravel. So that's the summary divorce. The second is the default divorce. That's where one person files and the other person fails to respond because you actually each state's different, but you have the receiving end of the spouse has a certain amount of time according to the state of when they have to respond to the paperwork that was filed against them for divorce. And so if they fail to respond in time, the divorce will be granted by default. And so that paperwork is pretty simple. You don't necessarily need an attorney for that. So try to avoid that if possible, because that might not be the best for you if you're on the receiving end of the divorce. But the third type of divorce is a contested divorce. That's the doozy. Very expensive, long, stressful for you, your spouse, and your kids, and everyone involved. Of course, that's the one that happened to me for almost 4 years. It was horrible. So that's definitely going to be not in the running for the cheapest kind of divorce. The fourth type is the mediated divorce. That's where you hire a neutral third party to mediate your divorce to try to come to an agreement between the two spouses by avoiding trial, avoiding a contested divorce, basically. The mediator is not your advocate. They are there to just be like a referee between the two parties with the goal of getting an agreement done. The fourth type of divorce is an arbitrated divorce. That's where you hire, both parties agree to it, and they hire a private judge to hear the case. It's still not the cheapest of the options, but what I like about this kind of divorce is that it grants you more privacy and it goes quicker than like a regular contested divorce at a trial. So I like that privacy. For example, to give you a feeling of like what privacy means in divorce. So my divorce went to trial, and my ex-husband, he like brought in a bunch of people in the courtroom. I don't know what his purpose was with that, but for me it was very intimidating and humiliating to have like people who I used to consider friends, his family members, they're just like staring me down when I was on the stand. And we were talking about really private things, and they were right there. And it's not like in trial you can't just like stop the other person talking and say, hey, you know what, that's a lie, that's not true. You can't say that. You have to like wait your turn. So it's just a humiliating, horrible thing to be in trial because anybody can show up in the courtroom. the judge can ask them to leave, but I mean, it's basically like a public hearing. So I like arbitration for that reason, but not the most cheapest of options either. Um, then the last way, the sixth way, is collaborative divorce. This is one of my favorite ways, options out there. If it's available in your state, it's where both parties each hire their own attorney, and the four of you sit down and you negotiate a settlement. And what is great about that is you're in it in order to come to an agreement in like a fair, amiable way, in order to avoid court. And you agree at the get-go that if you can't come to an agreement, then you're gonna scratch everything and start over, probably going to trial because you're gonna have to get new attorneys. So everyone really kind of has skin in the game to come to an agreement with a collaborative divorce. Um, so the theory behind this is the more involved your attorney is and the more court is involved, the more expensive your divorce gets. So we need to look at which type of divorce minimizes the attorney involvement. And so for that, first it would obviously be the summary divorce or the default divorce, because both of those are fairly easy to get done without an attorney. Definitely not available for everyone. Pro se is a legal term that's used for filing for divorce without an attorney. So that's going to be the cheapest way always. If this is not in the cards for you, I would look at uh, a mediated divorce. A collaborative divorce is my favorite. And then lastly, arbitration, and do everything you can to avoid a contested divorce where you actually end up going to trial. And if that happens, call me for a sympathy phone call. If you like this video, subscribe to my channel, give it a thumbs up, and sign up for my newsletter. It's on divorceowl.com/opt-in. Keep your chin up because you are an overcomer.